I did a live stream, and some of you may have seen last night's live stream, but it was really glitchy. And then I went into the YouTube interface to try and get out the bad parts that make it work. And the editor totally screwed it all up. And it's even worse than when we originally streamed it. And this is something that I really thought that you guys should see, how they will set you up and what they will do to change the narrative and lock you away in the concentration camps in the USSA. I left in late 2017, and people said, oh, you're a coward, oh, you're a criminal, all this stuff, all the insults you can imagine being hurled after me as I went out. And it was crazy because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a coward because I refused to bow down to an illegal kangaroo court and I left the country to find freedom with my family. Whatever, moving on, right? Ultimately, as an activist who's been doing stuff for years, and this goes back all the way to 2011, 12, 13, when I first started my activism. If you're not familiar with that, you can learn about those on this channel. But ultimately, what was the last straw was when they tried to force me. After a police officer stole my phone, and I didn't have the video of the encounter, even though I'd done nothing wrong, I was just filming and interacting with him. And they stole my phone, and then they said, well, we want to access the phone. They couldn't get into the phone because I password protected it, which I've told you guys to do always on your phones. And so finally, despite the fact that in an earlier hearing, this judge said, oh no, we won't make you unlock the phone, prosecutor comes back, files all these motions, and they're gonna make me unlock the phone. They're gonna try to make me unlock the phone. And at that point I said, this is a fraud. This court is a sham. I'm not going into court to have myself be abused. I'm not even discussing the idea that I have to give you access to my phone. Not that there was anything wrong on my phone. I actually wanted what was on the phone and would have shared it publicly. But because of the principle, because of freedom, because you do not have to give the government access to your privacy. And that shouldn't be tolerated. People say, well, it's unconstitutional. They wouldn't have got away with it. Except they are. Except people are going to jail because they refuse to give up the passwords to their phone because our courts don't care about the Constitution. So fast forward to yesterday, and I'm looking through one of these sites. You know how you just get in a mood every now and then, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna research my criminal record on the internet, like you do. So I go to one of these sites where you pay a few bucks, and it gives you this background check sort of thing, criminal record, warrants, things like that. Hey, do I have any other warrants out there? Now, I'm not going to even recommend a site for this because usually they're kind of bait and switch. They try and charge you a few bucks and then get you into a subscription where they charge you over and over. So I immediately went and canceled the reoccurring subscription. And I went in there, and it's a good thing I did because this site was lacking a ton of information. I mean, even things like my birth date were not in there. So if a background check site can't figure out my birthday, it's definitely not a very good site. What was interesting though, and it did give me something that was worth my money. I was digging through and it showed me something that's no longer apparently in the Washington State court records. And that is these fake charges. It showed me a set of multiple charges where they were trying to charge me with possession of substances and methamphetamines. Now, if we look here's this record, and we see my arrests from Douglas County. This is when I stood up in a courtroom and demanded the Constitution be followed, and I got arrested and then subsequently convicted of that. But let's go down a little bit further. You see these ones, they all have the arresting agency. Now we go down here, and suddenly there's these ones that I had never even heard of. These were filed. This was filed as an arrest/charge 3 to 4 days after I was originally convicted for standing up in this courtroom. Of methamphetamine. Here's one that says non-charge, right? We don't even know what that one is. Here's one that says possession of a prescription substance without a prescription. Okay, now notice what all these say. These were all entered and they say dismissal and remand of appeal, which basically means they were reversed, they were erased. These were filed on 6/29, days after that conviction. Now, I've told you guys in my videos, and you can watch this in the activist training videos that I do on this channel, I've said, listen, be careful, lock your doors, always film, always call out what you think they might do on the video. Never, ever trust Blue ISIS because they will try and set you up. And they do. I mean, we have people like Schaefer Cox and Jeff Winehouse and Leonard Peltier and countless others sitting in these prisons when they were the victims of the system. And here they are locked in these prisons. And this is ultimately why I said I won't tolerate this. I won't walk into their concentration camps. I won't take part in this fascism. I refuse to submit to your terrorism. Pat Kennedy, federal government, Washington State, Grant County, Douglas County. And yet here I am, and people, as I left, people said, oh, you're paranoid, you're ridiculous, they're not out to get you, they just wanted to slap you on the wrist. And here we are. This is the big one, possession of methamphetamine. This is 6-9. This one actually has an offense code in the statute, okay? I added the setup hashtag, by the way, for the image that I posted. And I've highlighted these, dismissal and remand of appeal, right? So about 6 months later, it was dismissed, but I was never arrested. I was never told about this. This was placed in the system almost as if they intended to find an opportunity to plant these things in my vehicle and then maybe charge me with them. What were they thinking? What was going on? Something was going on, because these things like this just don't appear in the system. Let's actually go look at these RCWs, all right? So here, these are like possession and maybe even distribution of methamphetamines. Now, it's important to understand that despite lots of troll accusations, I mean, I've never been smashed. I've never gotten high on even marijuana. I've never even seen methamphetamine in person, much less possessed it. And so this is absolutely fabricated. They fabricated these charges and they put them in the system. There's also one that's under prohibited acts, which is, I believe, possession of a narcotic, a prescription narcotic without a prescription, right? All these things, only the government can deal drugs, right? I don't believe substances should be restricted, but the point is, I don't do these substances. And the fact is, the government has all these laws protecting their cartel, protecting their distribution of substances, and that's really all it's about. It's not about protecting people. These are felonies, guys. These are stuff that could put me away for a decade or more. Okay, 4012B. Okay, right here. 412B is possession of methamphetamine and its related things. It's a Class B felony, imprisonment up to 10 years and a fine up to $25,000. See, this is what they're trying to set up. So as people were saying, oh, Gavin's just paranoid. Gavin, they weren't out to get Gavin. Guys, we see our friends going to prison. And this is pretty laughable in light of all the people that were saying there was nothing going on. One of the reasons that I left, what pushed it over was them trying to force me to unlock my phone, right? But it was more than that, right? I hadn't even seen this. But I did hear reports of officers in towns hours away spreading rumors that they thought Gavin might go on a shooting spree. What do you think they were going to do with that one? What do you think they were planning to do with this one here? Where they charged me with 3 different things, with felony possession of methamphetamines when I've never even touched methamphetamines. What do you think they were planning to put in my car? What do you think they were planning to do with the rumors that Gavin was going to go on a shooting spree? You got to know when to get out. You got to know when to walk away. You got to know when to say no more. We don't have to bow to kangaroo courts. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to cut the cord and say, you know what, I'm going to a part of America with more freedom. I'm going to escape the concentration camp. I'm not going to show up for court. I'm not going to play the game. Sure, there's a cost. It's a big step. And there's a risk. But this is ridiculous. This is insane. We have to stop submitting to terrorists. We have to stop pretending that the USA is free. We imprison more of our people than any nation on the face of the earth, and then we have the gall to say we're the greatest and the freest, as fascism, terrorism, police abuse, and corruption reigns supreme under the guise of protecting us, and as the slaves wave the flags and say, the government keeps us safe. I will not comply. And as time goes on, we're going to see more and more why people like me are getting out, so that we can keep speaking, so that we can keep defending our friends that are locked in the prisons, so that we can try and keep our families free. And I hope everybody will take that to heart. Because as people were mocking the idea that I would leave, that they were really trying to set me up, we have things like this that the courts don't want me to see. See, if I go to the court website, I can't even find these charges. They were disappeared from the system. And apparently at some point, some public records system, some background check system pulled these and entered them into its database. If you find more, if you have access, if you're maybe a private investigator and you have a real proper background check system, hey, let me know. Let me know if you see any other crazy stuff they're trying to set me up for. Watch your back, especially if you're an auditor, an activist. Always film, lock the car doors. Always be aware that these people will stop at nothing Because the reality is, had I been charged with meth, would people have come to my defense? No. They would have said, oh, I thought that Gavin might be a bad one. Oh, I knew he was a meth addict. They would have gone along with whatever puppet narrative the government put out and the media reported. Just like they do when they set people up and plant child pornography on their phones or computers. This is one reason I would not allow them access to my phone. Because there's nothing bad on the phone, but I wasn't going to give them an opportunity to plant something that could send me to prison. People are going to prison for life in the USA for things that they had nothing to do with, because it fills the prisons, because it silences the activists, and because it keeps you in fear. I choose not to live in that kind of a world, and I choose not to raise my kids in that kind of a world. We have to stand up. Nowhere's perfect, but this is intolerable. All right, guys, hopefully this video came across a little bit clearer. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you see. Maybe keep an eye on yourself. Make sure they're not trying to set you up, because rest assured, they will. So watch your back, love your neighbor, stand for freedom, resist blue ISIS.